Did you ever get caught in a shed in the middle of a rainstorm? Well, I have. And it reminds me, the Bible says rain falls on the just and the unjust. And so I think spirituality is our attitude toward the weather. So before this service begins, let's take a moment to reflect on our attitude toward the weather. Come, let us worship together.
Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, whoever you are, ours is no caravan, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our great covenant.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free. Free from the laws that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless creed. Free from all social code that fails to serve the cause of human need. A freedom that reveres the past, the trust, the dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure only and explore. Prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
Hello. I have a story to share with you today that is adapted from one written by Katie Gelfand, and it begins with a gathering. a gathering of women who came together, 4 women from the 4 different directions, to enter into a time of sacredness together. And as they came, each of one brought with them a pitcher of water from their own community as they brought their stories and their experiences with them to their gathering. And where they gathered, there was a large container for water. This represents that. And each of them has their own pitcher of water, and I've got a little pitcher of water of my own here today. And so I want to share this story with you. The youngest woman came from the east with the spirit of air. Can you help me call to mind the spirit of air this morning? Let's make some air, some wind. Ready? As she poured some water, the water from her pitcher, into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about the excitement of children being born, the music of laughter that fragranced the neighborhoods, and the bliss of young people falling in love. And as she shared the story from her heart, she laughed. And that laughter, too, entered the vessel and mingled with the water. The mother came from the south with the spirit of fire, like the fire we have in our flaming chalice. And as she poured the water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about adapting to the ever-changing world of parenting and the challenges of navigating family life and the hard time that many in her community were having in times of stress and transition and big change. And as she shared the stories from her heart, a drop of sweat formed on her brow and then dropped into the vessel. Next, from the west, the spirit of water came, the sovereign woman, powerful woman, who poured the water from her pitcher into the vessel and shared stories from her community about friends and loved ones who had died, the grief of those who missed them, and the deep pain she carried for the wounds that people have inflicted on one another and on the world. And as she shared her story, a tear dropped from her eye and mingled with the waters in the vessel as well. Next, from the north, came an elder woman with the spirit of the earth. And I invite you now, some of you might be outside, I don't know, and you might be able to feel the earth directly, but for the rest of us, I invite you to place your feet on the floor and imagine that you can feel the earth deep below us, holding up and sustaining that ground beneath us. And so, as the woman of the north poured her water into the vessel, she shared stories about the peace that she had found in solitude, the comfort she found in witnessing the changing of the seasons and the phases of the moon, and the renewal that she felt when sharing her wisdom with those who would listen to her. And as she shared her story, a tear of joy fell from her eye and landed in the waters. And then, between the 4 women, there was a vessel filled with the waters of joy and laughter and change and transition and sorrow and loss and renewal and peace. And there the waters mixed together in harmony, blessed by the stories of the women who had brought them from each of their communities. And then each woman took out a small container that they had brought with them and filled it from the vessel of compassion that they had gathered to take back with them to their communities, to bring back the love and compassion of all people to them until such time as they could gather together in person again. Later in this service, we are going to have, as part of our water communion ritual, an opportunity to actually make use of some water. And so I want to invite you, if you do not already have some drinking water handy, I would like to invite you to, between now and the ritual time in the service, to gather some water of your own. And I've got mine in one of my favorite glasses. You can use whatever container you want, but I want you to know ahead of time that there's going to be an invitation later in the service for us all to share some water together as we do our water communion this year in a different way than we have before. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me today.
African Americans have a great attachment to water. We have used it to fish and have food in the motherland of Africa. We have used it as graves as when thrown off slave ships. We have used it to escape from slavery, and we use it today as a statement of the inequities with people who have water and who do not. Langston Hughes spoke about water in The Negro Speaks of Rivers. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euripides when dawn was young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. As we contemplate our members, the fact that we miss each other in not being in a physical place, as we contemplate and remember people who are ill or struggling, who are feeling sad or depression, as we remember everyone that we've touched in our lives, or just yesterday in putting out our garbage, let us remember that the strength of water is healing. Walk with me, pray with me, meditate with me during this reading. The Strength of Water by Jamila Batchelder and Molly House Gordon. The strength of water takes on many forms, just as each of you has a unique and necessary strength that you bring to our community and to the work of love. Take a moment now to drop down deep into the wellspring of your own spirit and bathe yourself in the strength that is the groundwater of your person. Are you a roaring fall wearing rock away with the sheer force of will? Are you a tiny drop of water in a crevice, breaking it open slowly, steadily? Are you buoyant like a great salt lake practiced at holding others afloat? Are you tenacious like the mountain stream, finding your way down and around every obstacle you face? Are you still and calm like the pond at daybreak, offering radiant peace by your shores? Are you in touch with the hidden side of human deaths pulling from a vast well? Do you soothe like the stream rising from a cup of tea? And do you dissolve away stubborn muck like water left in a pot to soak? Do you soften and smooth the edges like a creeping fog? Do you clear away distractions like a cleansing rain? Do you roll with the ebb and the flow like the ocean waves? Settle your mind upon the strength, the power that is yours. Draw that strength into your heart. Draw it up into your soul as we gather together the many waters of this community. We need each other. We need each other's power, each of your resilience, each of your love to make us whole. Blessed be.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. In my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. In my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. In my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. In my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. In my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. In my soul.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Presley, and I'm the Director of Administration at TVUUC. You may be a lot like me. Right now, during the pandemic, everyone is looking at what sort of discretionary income they have, where they can give money to, what their jobs look like. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. And where we can help at TVUC is with the Helping Fund. The Helping Fund is under the direction of our Assistant Minister, Reverend Jametta Alston. She is able to talk to members, friends, folks in the community that need help with things like rent, paying their house payment, buying food, paying for medications. A lot of those things are requests that she gets calls for every week. So this Sunday, when you give, 100% of your contribution will go to the Helping Fund at TVUC. Some of you all may be in a place where you can fund that with giving online, maybe $5, $10. That helps to pay gas for someone. That helps to maybe buy school supplies for someone's kid. Maybe you're in a place where you can give more than that. Maybe you can give $50 or $100. Perhaps you're even in a situation where you could fund the Helping Fund for a whole year. We typically give out $4,000 a year. During the pandemic, our requests have been much more than that. So if you can help today, the way you can do that is to go to tvuuc.org/give, or you can text give to the number 73256, type in TVUC and the amount that you would like to give. No amount is too big, no amount is too small. Everything that you give today that is not marked as a pledge goes to help those from our church, from our community, our friends. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Everyone, we need you. The Helping Fund needs you. With the pandemic and helping different families that are calling us, we have given money for utilities. We have helped with clothing for children. We have helped with food, especially food. You may not know about the bins that sit at the front of our church so that people who are hungry can go there and pull food that needs to be replenished. You may not know about the person who needs help trying to save their apartment because they've been laid off from their job because of the pandemic. We need you. Consider giving generously during this Helping Fund pledge. Please help us to continue to be the church that is there when you are in need. Thank you.
New mown hay on a July morn, the grandkids are running through the knee-high corn, a sunburned nose and a scabbed up knee from a rope at the white oak tree. Just another summer's day at Grandpa's farm with Grandma's bucket hanging off my arm. You know the old pump's rusty but it works fine, primed with water from another time. It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Leave a little extra for the next in line. Gonna need a little water from another time. Tattered quilt on a goose-down bed. Every stitch tells a story, my grandma said. Her mama's nightgown and grandpa's pants and the dress she wore to her high school dance. Now wrapped at night in those patchwork seams, I waltz with grandma in my dreams. My arms, my heart, my life entwined with water from another time. It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Leave a little extra for the next in line. Gonna need a little water from another time. Newborn cry in the morning air. The past and the future are wedded there. In this wellspring of my sons and daughters, the bone and blood of living water. Grandpa's hands have gone to dust, like Grandma's pump reduced to rust. Their stories quench my soul and mind, like water from another time. It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Leave a little extra for the next in line. Gonna need a little water from another time. It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Leave a little extra for the next in line. Gonna need a little water from another time.
We're gonna need a little water.
Need a little water. Gonna need a little water from another time.
The mystics of all the great world religions tell us that we will never understand the true nature of God any more than the fish can understand the nature of the water that they swim in. All we can have is a very dim awareness that we live and move and have our being in a power that is greater than ourselves. Now, chemists can tell us about the chemical formulation of water. They can tell us that it is made up of 2 atoms hydrogen, 1 atom oxygen. And theologians have many abstract formulations for the nature of God. But here's the thing. You don't have to understand water in order to drink it. You don't have to understand water in order to wash your hands with it. You don't have to understand water in order to bathe or to swim in it. Long ago, on the last night of his life, Jesus didn't talk to his disciples about abstract chemical formulas or abstract theological notions about God. Instead, he humbled himself and took the form of a servant and washed their feet. Now, that action of love and service happened a long time ago. But there are times when I'm hiking in the mountains that I like to take off my shoes and wade into the river, and it feels like the water that is flowing around my feet and in between my toes is a kind of ministry, a healing ministry. The Hebrew scriptures tell us that once God said to Moses, "Take off your shoes, for the ground upon which you stand is holy ground." And so there need to be moments when we take off our shoes and wander into a stream and let the currents flow around our feet and feel that ministry and know that every moment is a sacred moment. Every river is a holy river. All water is holy water. Sometimes there is a power all around us and flowing through us that is ministering to us. I say sometimes there is a power because there are other times when we just can't feel it. There are other times when we feel like a fish out of water. And this may be one of those times. This is the time of year where we have our annual water communion. But we can't gather together in the same room. We can't gather together in the same building. And so this year our water communion will be quite different. This year will be our first virtual online water communion. Usually, we invite people to bring water from wherever they may have traveled over the summer, the vacation or staycation, and add water to a common bowl, reminding us of how our shared communal life, our common life, has been enriched by our individual spiritual journeys. This year, we've invited people to email in pictures. The pictures may be from travels over the summer or over the whole year, and maybe they're just travels in our own imagination. Pictures from vacations or staycations, pictures that remind us of the many different ways water helps to renew life. The picture might be simply of a form of water that inspires us, like clouds or rainbows or snow or ice or creeks or rivers or oceans or lakes some form of water that helps us feel renewed. Now, I know over the summer, some of us have been swimming in quarries, and some of us have been watering gardens. Some of us have been drinking from springs, and others have simply watched clouds float by out the window after being in a hospital for a number of days. There are many different ways we've experienced water communion. So we're going to be showing these pictures, and I hope these pictures will help you feel that connection to something greater than yourself. Hey, did you know that someone used their quarantine to knit me an octopus hat? It's pretty cool, isn't it? Well, here's an interesting fact about octopi. Did you know that an octopus can only live for 2 or 3 hours outside of the water, or it will perish? The octopus needs water, the power in which it lives and moves and has its being in order to live. We human beings are the same way. We can only live 2 or 3 days without drinking water. And so we too need this power in which we live and move. But water comes in many different forms. And when I was trying to think of what picture to send in for the water communion, I thought of a lot of different things. I thought maybe I would send in a picture of clouds over a mountain, or a picture of a river, or a picture of a creek or an ocean. But I finally decided to send in a picture of watermelon. Watermelon is my absolutely favorite thing to eat in the summertime. And I decided something this summer, that watermelon is one of the things that a pandemic can't ruin. It tastes great no matter if the world is going to hell in a handbasket outside. Watermelon tastes very good. It's one of the most wonderful things. All you have to do, it just grows out of the ground, and all you have to do is pick it and take it into the kitchen and cut it up and eat it and share it with others. It's just a wonderful thing. So water falls from the sky and nourishes the seed that turns into a vine that becomes a watermelon. And it reminds me of one of the parables of Jesus, which I will paraphrase slightly. He said, "The kingdom of God is like a watermelon seed, the smallest of all seeds that grows to be one of the largest of all fruits." And if you're like me and you can't eat watermelon without swallowing some of the seeds, then we also should take the teachings of Luke serious, that the kingdom of God is within you. And so the kingdom of God is like a seed that grows when it is watered. The Apostle Paul reminded us that the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And we need water. We need Spirit in order for these fruits to come into being. Last week I was driving down the interstate, and there was a truck in front of me that hadn't had a wash in quite a while, and somebody had written in the dirt on the back of the truck the question, "No church?" ? And then a kind of an imperative statement, "Be the church." So when the church doors are closed, we can still be the church. When the building is closed, the fruits of the Spirit can still flourish. Water comes in many different forms and can be held in many different containers. And one of the forms it can take is the rain that falls from the sky, the rain that falls on the just and the unjust, that helps watermelon seeds to grow, but can also spoil a good picnic or complicate a great outdoor wedding. One of the reasons that we are not meeting in this sanctuary this Sunday morning is because of water, and in particular, water droplets. You may not know this, but water droplets are one of the main ways that the virus is being spread. Water droplets that come out of our mouths when we speak, or when we preach, or when we talk to each other, or when we sing together, or participate in a choir together. And that's not the kind of water communion we want to have this morning. We want to have a water communion that keeps everyone safe and yet also honors this interdependent web of existence of which we are a part, honors the ways that we are connected to each other and interrelated to each other. And this connection is when we feel this connection, that's when we feel most connected to that power in which we move and live and have our being. We want to have a water communion that helps create the common good, supports the public health, and helps us work for peace and justice in the world. Rain falls on the just and the unjust. And spirituality is our attitude toward the weather. So let's try to cultivate a good attitude, an attitude that helps us feel connected to each other and to work together to endure the challenges that we have to face together. Many years ago, I was asked to write my own personal definition of the word God for a class called Build Your Own Theology. And because we were Unitarian Universalists, I didn't have to do it. I could have opted out, but I decided to do it. And here's what I wrote. I wrote, whenever two or more are gathered to love and support and encourage each other, there is a power greater than ourselves that can renew, restore, and sustain us. But we can also feel this power when we are in our homes because we know we are connected to each other. And we can feel that power when we are wading in a creek or canoeing down a river or kayaking in the ocean. We can feel that power wherever we are and wherever we go. But I don't want to end with an abstract or even a concrete definition of God. Rather, I'd like to end with some very practical theology. And this practical theology comes from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, when we are poor and when we are hungry, God can only appear as bread and butter. And when we are thirsty, God can only appear as water.
For our water communion ritual today, we invited members of our TVUC community to send in photos of water in places you have been this year or places that you long to be, water in any of its many forms. And we're about to share a slideshow for our water communion. But first, we have a little bit of a ritual to invite you to take part in. The water communion has been an important ritual in the community, in the life of our community for many years, but it's happening differently this year than other years because we are not physically gathered in person. But it is something that we are experiencing together as we share this service. And so I have invited folks to have some drinking water handy, and we're going to have an invitation to use that in just a moment. So we take part in this ritual today as a symbol of our connection with one another and the power of beloved community, whether in person or at a distance, to offer renewal of the Spirit. And we reunite in this time and in this way, and every time we gather to share the flow of our hearts with one another, we gather together in ritual to celebrate our fountains of joy, to hold each other through the storms of grief, to guide one another through the rapids of transformation, to rest together on ponds of stillness. And so together this morning we honor the Spirit of water in its many forms and its life-giving essence, because we know that the water that we drink, the water that we encounter and experience is all connected. That it has cycled through our world for generations upon generations and thousands and millions of years. All water truly is connected. And so as we share our water communion slideshow this morning, I invite you to sip from your water and know that it is connected with all the water of all in our community and all the world. May we be reminded and renewed.
Rain falls on the just and the unjust, and our spirituality is our attitude toward the weather. So let us go forth into the world with the best attitude that we can possibly bring to the challenges ahead, knowing it is water that makes all life possible. It is water that makes all things grow. Go in peace. The prophet Amos envisioned a day when justice will roll down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. I invite you now to turn and greet your neighbor. Send an email, make a phone call, reach out in some way so we can build that kind of community that works for justice, that will roll down like water and flow like an ever-flowing stream.